So this video is going to walk you through calculating average atomic mass. So when you look at a periodic table, and you should always have a periodic table handy when you're working on chemistry. When you look at each little block of the periodic table that represents an element, there are two numbers in there. Above the element symbol, there is a number. That's the atomic number. You'll remember that that's the number of protons. That's what identifies every atom. Below each element symbol is a number called the atomic mass or average atomic mass. And that's a really long number. Like if I look at that for chlorine, the particular periodic table I'm looking at, yours could be slightly different, so be aware of that. I have an average atomic mass of 35.453. And the reason this happens is because chlorine with an atomic number of 17 has 17 protons. And then if I take that number, 35.453, and round to the nearest whole number, 35, that is the mass. So 35 is protons plus neutrons. So typically about 18 neutrons. However, not all atoms of chlorine are going to have 18 neutrons. Some might have 17, some might have 19. These other atoms with different amounts of neutrons are called isotopes. And so when we go around and collect chlorine atoms, like if we went to the pool and collected chlorine atoms, we would get different masses for these chlorine atoms. And so we do a weighted average, just like your grades. 75% of Chem 110 grades are tests and homework. 25% is from lab. And that's exactly what we do. And so what we have to do is if we collected these chlorine atoms, we would look at the percentage of them that have a mass of 35. What percent have a mass of 34? What percent have a mass of 36? And we would look at those percentages, first turn those percentages into decimals, then multiply that by the mass, and then add them all together. And so let's look at an example. So here's the formula kind of written out a different way. The mass times the abundance plus the mass times the abundance. So for chlorine generally has two isotopes, two different atoms with different numbers of neutrons, which gives it different mass. It's still chlorine, still 17 protons, but different masses. So we can see chlorine with a mass of 35, 77 or 75.77%. Chlorine with a mass of 37, 24.23%. All right. And so we're going to take those percentages, turn them into decimals, divide by 100, in other words, because that's how we made those percentages, and multiply by the mass. And we come up with an atomic mass of 35.45 when we add those together. Now, when we're doing this, we're not really worried about significant figures. All right, now here's a practice for you. Neon has three different isotopes, 20, 21, and 22. If you look at your periodic table, you'll see that neon always has 10 protons. My particular periodic table, my average atomic mass is 20.180. So if I round that off, 20 would be my mass number. So most neons are going to have 10 neutrons. But obviously here we have isotopes of neon that have 11 neutrons and 12 neutrons. So see if you can figure out the average mass for neon. This would be a great time to pause the video and work that problem. All right, here we are back again. Step one, converting those percentages into decimals. Step two, multiplying each of those decimals by the mass, add those together, and come up with an average of 20.1877. A little different than what. And that's how we calculate average atomic mass. I hope this helps you as you start to work on homework number 2, which is due next week.